Here are the top stories for today, March 16, 2021. It's stay at home again for minors in Metro Manila starting March 17 as the region grapples with a continued rise in COVID-19 cases. Equal vaccine access for all. President Rodrigo Duterte wants a mobile vaccination drive to bring jabs closer to the poor. No halt to smooth trips. The Toll Regulatory Board says the Skyway 3 will not be closed to motorists. And a coffee table book series highlights the role of indigenous peoples in maintaining the country's ecological balance. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. And it's stay at home for minors in Metro Manila again as mayors agreed to disallow them from roaming outside amid the continued rise in COVID-19 cases in the region. The Metro Manila Council says starting tomorrow, only people aged 18 to 65 years old can leave their homes. Metro Manila Development Authority Chair Benhur Abalos said the council is crafting a resolution for the measure requiring people aged 15 to 17 years old to stay at home for 2 weeks. This came amid reports of COVID-19 transmission among households. On Monday, the Philippine National Police arrested 1,449 violators on the first day of curfew re-implementation in the region from 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. Over 1,500 violators were fined, while 547 others were given a warning and released. President Rodrigo Duterte wants government agencies to bring COVID-19 vaccination to the slum areas. He said mobile vaccination would provide easy access to poor families who do not have means to travel to hospitals.
I know, lahat kayo, lalo na mga kababayan ko nandyan sa Escobados area, lahat kayo, huwag kayong matakot at hindi ko kayo iwanan. Ang order ko ngayon is for the team to give you the vaccine. Marami tayong sakyan. We will use all government assets.
Meanwhile, Health Secretary Francisco Duque III said bringing vaccination to the slums would pose challenges such as lack of manpower to monitor the vaccine side effects on recipients.
Ang problema lang po, Mr. President, na nakikita ko po ngayon, yung po kasing mga, kung dadalhin po yung bakuna sa kanila, kakailanganin po ng napakamaraming taong mag-monitor for adverse effects following immunization.
President Duterte eventually said he was satisfied with Duque's response and suggested providing transportation for poor individuals scheduled to get vaccinated.
Either we provide the transportation, we'll rent social distancing lang rin. Just make sure that I said the integrity of the vaccine is not compromised. Baka mishandle, misplace, mismanage yung team, then there's always the danger that the vaccine given will be put to a naught. Yun ang ibig kong sabihin.
The president also reassured poor Filipinos that they will be among the priorities in the government's national vaccination program after frontline healthcare workers and senior citizens.
Do not despair. Kaya natin ito, COVID na ito. Maliit na bagay ito sa buhay natin. Marami tayong dinaanan, mas grabe, mas mahirap, mas na magduluha kayo. Saka, I know, lahat kayo, lalo na mga kababayan ko nandyan sa Escobados area, lahat kayo, huwag kayong matakot at hindi ko kayo iwanan.
Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque rejected speculations that the surge in daily recorded COVID-19 cases is due to the decision of the government to reopen the economy. He said the presence of new COVID-19 variants in the country could be one of the grounds for such an increase.
After we reopen the economy, ito po, October 12 tayo nagbukas ng ating ekonomiya, pababa pa nga po ang mga kaso. At tignan ninyo, matapos ng Christmas Day, pababa pa rin ang mga kaso. Hindi po talaga pagbubukas sa ekonomiya naging problema. Tignan po natin ang datos, napababa po talaga natin ang kaso. At itong buwan ng Marso lang sumipa muli. At bagamat paulit-ulit ko sinasabi na hindi po ako eksperto, hindi po ako dalubhasa, hindi ako scientist, hindi ako doktor, tingin ko naman yung kumpirmasyon na nasa Pilipinas na yung mga bagong variants at itong mga bagong variants sa may nakakahawa, ito ay isa sa mga dahilan ng surge. Hindi po dahil palpak ang gobyerno.
The Department of Health or DOH confirmed the first case of the P1 variant in the country. This variant was first discovered in Brazil and was detected from samples of an overseas Filipino worker who just returned from the South American nation. Health authorities also discovered more cases of the B117 variant first detected in the United Kingdom and additional cases of the B1351 variant from South Africa. Roque, meanwhile, assures that the government will not revert Metro Manila to a stricter quarantine classification because the country's healthcare capacity can manage the spike in COVID-19 cases. Health authorities in Negros Oriental are calling for the possible close contacts of presidential spokesperson Harry Roque when the official visited the province. Roque, who tested positive for coronavirus disease, was in Negros Oriental last week along with President Rodrigo Duterte during the inauguration of two major infrastructure projects. Negros Oriental Assistant Provincial Health Officer Dr. Leland Estacion said 6 persons who came in contact with a palace official already volunteered to be swab tested. Estacion reiterated her appeal to the people not to let their guard down, even if the province notes a decrease in the number of COVID-19 cases. More local governments in Metro Manila reimpose stricter measures to minimize the spread of COVID-19 disease. Janice Cave will give us an update on the news around the metro.
The Pasay City General Hospital declares it is nearing full bed capacity due to the continuing increase in the number of cases of COVID-19. Some positive patients are even stuck at the emergency room waiting for possible admission. The city government requested for additional isolation facilities through the government's Oplan Kalinga. Meanwhile, the city government intensifies its implementation of minimum health standards. Residents who are caught not properly wearing masks and face shields in public places will be apprehended and will be penalized for up to 5,000 pesos or 1 month imprisonment. In Quezon City, business establishments are ordered to create a workplace COVID-19 task force that will implement prevention, detection, contact tracing, isolation, and management strategies of the company, office, or store. This amid reports that household transmission stems from one member of the household who acquired the virus from his workplace. Mayor Joy Balmonte urged companies to implement alternative work schedule as well as alternative mode of transportation for employees. Business owners and managers are also reminded to use the QC Pass contact tracing app for their employees and customers. Meanwhile, liquor ban is implemented in San Juan and Mandaluyong City. Selling, bringing, and drinking liquor in these cities are prohibited beginning March 15 until March 31. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Almost 4,000 Filipino nurses are expected to be deployed in Germany this year. The minimum salary of nurses in Germany is 2,000 euro or roughly 115,820 pesos per month. Philippine Labor Attaché in Germany, Delmer Cruz, said the number includes some 1,000 nurses who are given the opportunity to work in Germany through the Triple Win project.
Tuloy-tuloy pa rin ang deployment despite yung tinatawag nilang yung cap, no? Kasi meron tayong cap for 2021. Subalit ang Triple Win program po ay tuloy-tuloy na. If my update is correct, since January they have deployed more than 100 already, no? At marami pa yung nasa pipeline na ito yung mga naipit because of the nung nung 2020 medyo mahaba-haba rin yung time na yung processing natin because of the lockdown in Metro Manila na antala yung kanilang pag-alis. So ngayong 2021 first quarter na notice namin yung pagbilis, at saka hindi lang po yung triple win kasi dalawang tracks ang deployment of nurses dito sa Germany. Isa yung government to government under the triple win program, and then parallel to that track is yung tinatawag natin private recruitment stream through our Philippine recruitment agencies.
More government media facilities are being upgraded to keep up with the new technologies in the market. This as Communications Secretary Martin Andanar stressed the need for the government to remain a relevant source of information. The Presidential Communications Operations Office, or PCOO, continues to implement their initiative to modernize and upgrade the broadcast facilities of the government this year, starting with DWPE 729 AM Radio Pilipinas Tugigaraw. Andanar led the turnover of new broadcast equipment to DWPE station manager Sani Lopez. Andanar said the PCOO will continue to deliver public service and at the same time modernized our government stations. RP Tugigaraw is the 6th radio station to receive new equipment through its radio rehab program. Still to come, hassle-free trips continue as the Toll Regulatory Board denies the closure of Skyway 3. And OFW remittances in the country are seen to get a boost amid the rollout of COVID-19 vaccines. More on this when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Alamin kung paano ang tamang pagsusuot ng surgical mask. Una, hawakan ang mask sa strap at siguruhing natatakpan nito ang inyong bibig at ilong. Tandaan, ang may kulay na bahagi ng mask ang dapat nasa labas. Ito lamang ang tamang paraan ng pagsuot nito. Ihulma ang nose piece o maliit na metallic strip ayon sa hugis ng inyong ilong. Iwasan ang paghawak sa inyong ilong at bibig. Kung marumi na ang mask, hubarin ito gamit ang strap at itapon ito sa isang basurahan. Siguruhin ang maayos na paghuhugas ng kamay gamit ang sabon at tubig. Ang surgical mask ay dapat gamitin ng mga pasyenteng may sakit sa baga o mga taong mayroong ubo, sipon at lagnat, mga nag-aalaga sa mga may sakit, at mga healthcare at frontline workers. Maaari ring magsuot nito kung kayo ay pupunta sa matataong lugar. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
The Toll Regulatory Board, or TRB, denied ordering the indefinite closure of the Skyway Stage 3 beginning today at 5 p.m. In a statement, the TRB said it did not issue such decisions or directives and maintains their position to keep Skyway Stage 3 open for the benefit of all motorists. Meanwhile, San Miguel Corporation President and Chief Operating Officer Ramon Ang confirmed that the Skyway Stage 3 will remain open. SMC Infrastructure earlier announced the indefinite closure of the expressway in accordance with a directive from the TRB. The 18-kilometer Skyway was fully open toll-free to motorists on January 15, with the TRB yet to approve the proposed toll rates for the 7-lane expressway. President Rodrigo Duterte is awaiting the result of the investigation into the death of 9 activists during recent raids in Calabarzon. The task force led by the Department of Justice, or DOJ, is looking into the cases on extrajudicial killings. In a virtual presser, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said President Duterte still has to comment on the issue.
This is awaiting results of the investigation. You cannot comment on something not knowing what actually transpired factually. Because he has told the police that he will stand by them if they are in compliance and in the discharge of their official duties, meaning that the use of force is because there is a threat Sinabihan na po niya kung banta sa kanilang mga buhay. Pero kung wala pong banta sa buhay nila, gumamit sila ng dahas, sila po'y malilitis at mapaparusahan.
Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara, on the other hand, assured that the Philippine National Police and the Armed Forces of the Philippines will be fully cooperative in the probes about the Calabarzon raids. Aside from the task force, the Commission on Human Rights is also conducting a separate probe into the incidents.
Ensure the people that there will be an impartial, fair, and thorough investigation of these incidents that happened recently in the Calabarzon area. Since the isolated incident lang yung nangyari sa Calvario City, no? And in fact, meron nang admission ang PNP authorities na rather improper yung ginawa na yon ng Chief of Police ng Calvario City.
The Philippines on Monday appealed to the United Nations Human Rights Council and Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights to stop making sweeping prejudgments on incidents without first verifying facts on the ground. The Philippine delegation made their appeal at the 46th UNHRC session in Geneva, Switzerland. It said the baseless calls for alarm over the police operations in Calabarzon on March 7 emboldened non-state actors to undermine lawful actions and disrupt public order. It said the biased statements against what the United Nations branded as arbitrary killings led to attacks on public websites, death threats to judges, and harassment of officials and private persons. It also stressed that contrary to claims that the 9 persons killed in the operations were indeed activists, the firearms and other paraphernalia found in their possession proved their identities as New People's Army terrorists. The Philippines, meantime, sought the UNHRC's support for the government's peaceful objectives and to seriously review practices that support violence and terrorism. Nearly 153,000 residents of Negros Oriental have signed up for the government's Philippine Identification System, or PhilSys. The Philippine Statistics Authority said about 131,000 of them have pre-registered, while 21,000 are registered under the Step 2 process. Pre-registration and registration activities are now underway in Dumaguete, Sibulan, San Jose, Amlan, Pamplona, Valencia, Bacong, Dauin, and Zamboanguita. The PSA launched on Tuesday these registration activities in Tanjay City and Mabinay, followed by Bai City and Santa Catalina. The Philippine Identification System Act aims to establish a single national ID for all Filipinos and resident aliens. The national ID will be a valid proof of identity that shall be a means of simplifying public and private transactions, enrollment in schools and government services, among others. Health officials in Kalinga are conducting contact tracing on 2 cases of COVID-19 caused by the UK variant in the province. More on this and other news from the provinces from Lade Cabagay.
The Rural Health Unit of Lubuagan, Kalinga has started tracing the contacts of 2 COVID-19 patients confirmed to be infected with the B117 UK variant. The 2 cases are both males, aged 5 and 7 years old, both residents of Poblacion, and were confirmed positive for COVID-19 on February 17. They were already tested negative of the virus on March 3 and 8 respectively. In Ilocos Norte, the city of Batac and municipalities of Solsona and Pagudpud have declared a lockdown in some of its affected sub-villages as 44 new cases of COVID-19 were recorded on Sunday. Solsona Town Mayor Joseph De Lara has also directed the temporary closure of its municipal hall building and rural health unit to give way to contact tracing and disinfection. The City Health Office of Batac also temporarily closed starting Monday as one of its employees tested positive for COVID-19. In Pagudpud Town, the Bureau of Fire Protection likewise conducted disinfection of its new public market to avoid the spread of COVID-19. In Negros Occidental, the provincial government requires all inbound travelers to present a negative RT-PCR test result upon arrival, except for those residing within Western Visayas. The National IATF requires LGUs to adopt uniform travel protocols for land, air, and sea since March 15. Moreover, Governor Eugenio Jose Lacson said that all airports, seaports, and terminals within Negros Occidental shall be open to the public, and private and public vehicles are now allowed to transport passengers to and from the airport, seaport, or terminal. Meanwhile, Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte has warned the public against the supposed spread of fake vaccines in the black market. Mayor Sara urged the public to be vigilant and be cautious on groups or individuals selling vaccines with dubious origins. She emphasized that the inoculation will only be administered by personnel from the Department of Health, Provincial, City, and Municipal Health. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Laid Kabagani.
In our business news, an economist forecasts the improvement of remittance inflows to the Philippines later in the year amid the rollout of COVID-19 vaccination programs worldwide. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas on Monday reported a 1.7% year-on-year decrease of cash remittances from overseas Filipino workers to $2.8 billion last January. Rizal Commercial Banking Corporation Chief Economist Michael Ricafort said the negative turnout came following the seasonal surge during the Christmas holidays and the continued repatriation of OFWs because of the pandemic. However, Ricafort is optimistic of a recovery as countries where OFWs work continue to roll out their respective vaccination programs. He said any further recovery in OFW remittances in the coming months would also largely depend on the recovery of the economies of the major host countries around the world. Up next, what hit list? A DILG official takes a swipe at the allegations of a lawmaker. And we get a better understanding of Indigenous people's heritage through books. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Alamin ang tamang paraan ng pag-ubo upang mapigilan ang paglaganap ng Coronavirus Disease 2019. Ugaliing magdala ng panyo o tissue. Kung uubo o babahing, takpan ang buong ilong at bibig gamit ang panyo o tissue. Kung walang dalang panyo o tissue, maaaring gamitin ang braso na pantakip. Kung nakararamdam na kailangan umubo o bumahing, agad na dumistansya sa mga tao sa paligid. Huwag dumura kung saan-saan, gumamit ng tissue at itapon sa basurahan. Ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at paggamit ng alcohol o hand sanitizer upang mamatay ang mikrobyo. Basta't sama-sama at laging handa, kaya natin to! Isang paalala mula sa DOH, PCOO, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
You're still watching the PNA Newsroom. A lawmaker is calling for a congressional probe into a Calbayog City Police intelligence officer's request to the local court for a list of lawyers defending suspected communists. Deputy Speaker Rufus Rodriguez said the request made by Lieutenant Fernando Calabria Jr. violates the duty of lawyers to render legal service to any person needing it. Rodriguez said a House probe is necessary to find out who issued the order to Calabria. He also said the House should find out if a similar request has been made in other parts of the country. He stressed that the targeted lawyers did nothing wrong in defending suspected communists. Philippine National Police Officer in charge Guillermo Eleazar has removed Calabria from his post. An official of the Department of the Interior and Local Government denied Bayan Muna Party List Representative Ferdinand Gaites' claim of a hit list against members of alleged ragtag group Courage. DILG Undersecretary Bernardo Florese Jr. said Gaites' claim was fake news and a figment of his imagination. Florese said it was the National Intelligence and Coordinating Agency that identified Courage as infiltrated by the Makabayang Kawaning Pilipino, an underground mass organization controlled by the CPP, NPA, NDF. Citing Republic Act 6713 or the Code of Conduct for Public Officials and Employees, Flores said civil servants should be loyal to the country and its people, uphold the Constitution, and put loyalty to country above all. On Sunday, Gaite criticized a letter from the DILG directing its regional officers to identify its peoples who are members of alleged left-leaning groups. The National Commission on Indigenous Peoples launched on Sunday the 3-book series of Project Epanaw, which showcases the culture and heritage of indigenous peoples. The Coffee Table Book series provides insights on the critical role IPs have in maintaining ecological balance of the nation. The NCIP said the books Pagkilala, Paggalang, and Pagtaguyod aim to present a true and accurate picture of IPs, giving readers a better understanding of who they are. The agency referred to IPs and indigenous cultural communities frontline ambassadors in sustainable community-based tourism. Tourism Secretary Bernadette Romulo Puyat meanwhile called IPs the stewards of the environment who protect the country's natural wonders from the dangers of overdevelopment and unsustainable ways of life. NCIP partnered with the Department of Tourism and the Tourism Promotions Board for the Coffee Table books that will make readers appreciate the IP's vital roles. In our news overseas, Ireland on Sunday suspended the rollout of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine over fears of serious blood clots. After consulting with the Norwegian Medicines Agency and the Health Products Regulatory Authority, the Irish Department of Health decided to suspend the use of the Oxford vaccine. The Irish government said they will await further information and tests. Last week, Denmark and Norway suspended the rollout and use of the Oxford vaccine after reports of a small number of blood clots. Austria and Italy also stopped using the vaccine. In the UK, nearly 24.2 million people had gotten their first dose of the vaccine by the end of March 13 and over 1.58 million for the second dose. In sports, senators on Monday passed on third and final reading bills granting citizenship to Ivorian cager Angelo Cuame and Spanish footballer Bienve Marañon. 34-year-old striker Marañon, who played for Ceres Negros Football Club, is hoping to play with the Philippine Ascals. Meanwhile, Cuame, a 6'10" center of the Ateneo de Manila University, is being eyed to join Gilas Pilipinas in international competitions, including the 2021 FIBA Asia Cup qualifiers and the 2023 FIBA Basketball World Cup. Once the bills granting them citizenship are signed into law by President Duterte, they will be eligible to play in international leagues under the Philippine flag. Senator Richard Gordon, chairman of the Committee on Justice and Human Rights, emphasized that naturalization is a privilege and that the candidates must have values befitting of model Filipinos. Here's another look at today's biggest stories. It's stay at home again for minors in Metro Manila starting March 17 as the region grapples with a continued rise in COVID-19 cases. Equal vaccine access for all. President Rodrigo Duterte wants a mobile vaccination drive to bring jabs closer to the poor. No halt to smooth trips. The Toll Regulatory Board says the Skyway 3 will not be closed to motorists. And a coffee table book series highlights the role of indigenous peoples in maintaining the country's ecological balance. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check more news content, visit our webpage or head onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, we tell stories that inspire change. I am William Theo. Good day, everyone.